we're gonna make a Detroit style pizza. So we've got a little bit of a tip for you. We actually, instead of proofing in like a big box or a different container or a round container, we actually proof in a rectangle container because our pan is also rectangle. That'll make it a lot easier for us to get it all the way to the edges. And I'm not using any oil in this pan. There's gonna be enough oil with the cheeses and things like that we're not gonna worry about that. In a properly seasoned pan, you don't need it. When you add the oil, you'll see that the dough will shrink in from the edges, and we really wanna avoid oil if we can in the bottom of the pan. We're gonna turn our dough into here. So I'm just gonna give it a little bit of a stretch here. Let gravity kind of do some of the work for us. And what I like to do is hold the edge and pull out the corners. If you're pulling the whole thing, what you'll end up seeing is uneven dough distribution. So if you hold the edge, just right by the edge, and just make it so it stretches just that end piece, you'll get a more even dough stretch across the bottom of the pan. You want to make sure that it gets all the way to the edge, but you are going to cover this up with a ton of cheese so you won't see any of your mistakes. And this pizza is really a pizza that we believe the one you should start with. If you're not really familiar with stretching out doughs, you're worried about the oven, you're worried about multiple things, a pan pizza is very forgiving. If your dough doesn't come out proper, or if you're buying dough from a store, this is perfect to put inside this pan. And we really like to use these blue steel pans. We have one that we really love that's on the Festa marketplace. And so check that out for all the products that we really believe in. We just want to evenly distribute this out. I'm going to kind of press some of that air out. I'm going to top with some olive oil, and we're actually going to par bake this crust without any toppings first. So par baking, for those that don't know, is that we're just going to partially cook this pizza. So without any toppings, we're going to get the party started by just cooking just the dough off first, just to ensure that everything cooks through nicely. And it's also a good trick to do this style of pizza because you can bake this part off way ahead of time. You can do this hours, even days ahead of your party, and then you're just finishing topping and baking it off. So let's go to the oven. This is important to kind of know the Festa Pizza oven, because the main reason is that we can adjust the top and bottom. And with this pan pizza, we've got oil on top. That oil is gonna really focus the heat on top. So what we're gonna do, we've preheated our oven. We're about 600, 650, right? Ideally, you wanna be between 500 and 600 for this style of pizza. And we're gonna actually turn the top burner completely off. So we still have the bottom burner going. We turn that top all the way off. We're gonna throw in that pizza, and we're gonna wait about 2.5 minutes until it looks fully cooked through. So we'll check this in about 2 minutes. So this blue steel pan is a 10 by 14. The cooking surface of this pizza oven is at 16 inches. So we have a total cooking surface of 16 inches. So with a 10 by 14, we're not hitting any edges and we're evenly cooking everything. So really you wanna go that size or smaller if you're building this style of pizza. So it's been about 1.5 minutes. I'm just looking for signs that that pizza dough is fully cooked. So I'm just gonna stop this for 1 second. I'm gonna have a look at it. You can see that the bottom is starting to get a little bit of color. We see that sizzle. That's what you want to see, is that sizzle that's cooking from the bottom up. This top is still a little doughy, so we're going to let this go for another minute or so. All right, so I think it's about ready. So we're going to take a look at it right now. So let me stop the stone. So to me, this is a perfect par bake. You're fully cooked, but you don't have any color on it. I think this is gonna absorb the sauce really nicely. The toppings are gonna stick nicely. When you go too far, sometimes you get a separation between the dough and the actual ingredients, and you want it to be one unified, beautiful pizza. And I believe that that is perfectly achieved by not over baking it at this stage. So we have our par bake crust here. Now let's top it. So one thing to remember with this pizza is it's all about the frico, okay? So we're gonna start with the frico. So we're gonna take our cheese and actually lay it up against the pan. That is more important than the cheese that's on the top of the pizza. So lay this up against the pan. Make sure you get it all the way to the corner. Really wanna emphasize that cheese hitting the edge of the pan. So with this one, we're using the shredded cheese. So there's a few options when you want to create your frico. The main thing is you want a good amount of cheese. You can use slices. We've used slices of cheddar or provolone. There's a lot of options out there and a lot of different ideas for different pizzaiolos. A nice shredded cheese that you shred in-house, you shred in at home is ideal, but a sliced cheese will work out great for that as well. Just gonna finish this off in the corners. And get a good topping in the middle. We don't have to go too crazy because everything will separate and will spread out. And we're gonna go pepperoni, which is very traditional in the Motor City. And if you notice, I haven't added sauce yet. So the most traditional Detroit style pizza, the sauce is actually on top. So in honor of the Motor City, we will put racing stripes across the middle. All right, let's take it back to the oven. All right, so we want to make sure that our oven, because we've been away from the oven for a few minutes, we want to make sure it's still maintaining that nice temperature. So we're still right at 600, and I think that's going to finish this pizza off perfectly. Okay? I'm going to stop the stone. And the main reason I want to stop the stone is because I really have to center this. With this size of a pan, I really need to get it right in the center of this stone so it's not hitting the sides. Start it back up. So if you remember with the par cook for the Detroit pizza, we actually turned the top burner completely off. We're now keeping it on its lowest setting. We really want the bottom to be cooking and crisping up, and we also want that frico to develop, right? But we don't want our toppings to burn. So we're just keeping that top flame on a super lowest setting we can get it to. We want to maintain that temperature of about 600. That's what we're really going for. All right, so a quick note about the controls here. So for most applications, for Neapolitan, for New York, especially for Detroit, we want to make sure that this bottom burner is always on. It is a very small burner. We want to make sure that it's always on and it's always on high. So it really has high or low, and we really want to maintain that on high all the time for most applications. You might find when you're cooking some things that you might find that cooking it without the bottom burner helps with you. But we've noticed that with the thickness of the stone, it really helps to have that on all the time. And on the burner here, you'll see on the top flame that there are a few different settings. There's high, which really we don't use very often. Maybe when we're making Neapolitan pizza, we might keep that on high, but we still adjust that quite a bit. But we have a cruise control setting, right? That's a little pizza icon. That's where we like to keep the oven if we're trying to maintain the heat on a regular basis. And we also believe that it's almost perfect for making New York style pizza. And we adjust that to low depending on what it is. And I actually just turned the burner off in order to make sure that the pizza ingredients on the top of this Detroit aren't burning. So we're about 10 minutes on our second bake. And let's just check on it. So I'm gonna let this go a little bit further. I'm gonna turn that top heat back on and get it some color. So what I'm looking for is a really good char, as you can see edge of the pan. You should see it sizzling, almost smoking. We really wanna see the char so that we know the cheese is fully set. We don't want to burn it. We want to get as close to burnt as possible without it being burnt. So as you can see, you really get that nice char against the edges. And we're going to let this set. We want it to finish cooking in the pan and all that cheese to set before we pull this out. So this is our finished Detroit pie. So we can see we have nice char here. We're going to let this rest for just a couple more minutes to make sure that's fully set, and then we'll take it out. So what we're going to do, now that it's rested long enough, is we're just going to loosen that cornichone off without trying to break it up. Making sure it's all loose from the bottom. And if we waited long enough and cooked it properly, what we'll see is that this cornichone will stand tall and proud. Okay. I don't know if we could have done any better. So this right here is that freaka that we're looking for. Super crispy, standing tall and holding all the beautiful toppings in. This is a Detroit pizza.